So, my talk today is about karma, and it's something that we don't often talk about in New Thought. So, I thought, why not? Let's talk about it. And I want to start by reading an excerpt from my first book, Conscious Being, which I find myself returning to lately. And that's just interesting to me. So, I'm going to read this and I'm going to put on my glasses so I can read it because I am so grateful for glasses as a powerful tool to be even more aware and have eyes that can see. Again, this is from my book, Conscious Being. Karma is not an outside force. It is repetitively thinking the same idea about ourselves and the world and getting the same results. It feels like it's coming from outside of us. In actuality, we are imprinting our thoughts, attitudes, intentions, and beliefs, whether they are conscious or unconscious, upon the world and receiving them back in return. If we believe that we are fundamentally flawed or inferior, then life will seem to reflect that reality back to us. We will see it in our circumstances and in the people we encounter and what they choose to say to us. If we are convinced that we don't deserve or are not capable, life will seem to confirm that to be true. That will happen again and again until we change the program or the lens through which we are looking. If we feel confident and know that we can achieve our highest goals, our belief and corresponding actions will allow that to be reflected back to us in our lives. And I think I go on to talk about how sometimes in New Thought, I think we have new language, but not necessarily a new thought. Sometimes I hear different terminology that we use that really is just kind of a way of repackaging or putting maybe a little different outfit on some of the old ideas. Like I hear people talking about the cosmic 2x4. I think we might have even talked about this the last time I spoke here. I hear that a lot in Unity and in New Thought. Oh, be careful because the cosmic 2x4 will get you. And I'm thinking that sounds very, very much like a punishing God, the one that I heard about when I was a little kid. Sort of the Santa Claus version of God, right? If you're a good kid, you know, Santa Claus is always watching. It was striking to me, and it continues to be striking to me, that what we were taught, at least what I was taught about God and Santa Claus, were pretty much the same thing. Santa Claus is always watching. He knows if you're going to be good or bad. Of course, it's a he too, and you better be good. Otherwise, what? I might get punished. And so when we come into New Thought, we might have a new way of framing it, but we might be still holding on to some of the same ideas. And the reason I start with that is my invitation for us today is to question and to look at what gets created when we attach to certain beliefs and what might get created if we were to expand upon them or be curious about them. My good friend, Reverend Temple Hayes, I listened to a talk that she gave recently at Unity of Santa Barbara, and she said, if you are working with a spiritual teacher who tells you that they have the answers, you might want to, at very least, question that. And I love that because because first of all, when I came to Unity, David and I took a little trip down memory lane about my history with Unity, and I was really leaning into it and like so many different emotions about my relationship with Unity, mostly gratitude for the profound change that has happened in my life based on these profound teachings. And when I came to Unity in the late 80s, I had a lot of ideas about good and bad and right and wrong. And of course, I kind of just took those beliefs and ideas into New Thought until I started to understand, not just intellectually, but experientially, that really this isn't about discovering the answer. And if your mind is anything like mine, and I think I'm going to guess that some of you relate to it, at one point in my evolution, I would have said, oh, no, there's no way that can be real. That's not what we're here trying to do. We are, of course, looking for answers because I thought once I find the answers, then what? I could be free, or I could be happy, or I can finally be at peace. And I've come to understand that spirituality or spirit itself is really about asking questions, not about having the answers. And recognizing that the mind is really powerful and important, but it's not the ultimate truth of who and what we are. And the mind is always seeking answers. And there's nothing inherently right or wrong about that. I think it was Einstein who said the mind is a trusted servant, but many of us actually are treating it like the master in our lives instead of the servants. And I know that language is very old and not necessarily language that we use today, but the idea of it is really powerful. Because when we think about something like karma, and we hear often people say things like, oh, we don't have to worry about them, karma will get them. What does that mean to think in those terms, that somehow there's still this outside force that is punishing and rewarding? And I will say it might be true. What I'm inviting us to do is look at what gets created when I have that belief, this idea that I have to be good in order to receive, and if I'm bad, I'm going to get punished. And for some of us, that program is so deep that even questioning it might be met with some kind of internal resistance. And so if we think about karma not as an outside force, but as I said in the reading, as a repetitive way of seeing ourselves in the world that seems to get replicated over and over and over again. In other words, the consciousness of our belief is sure to come to us. And I know that I've been talking about this a lot lately, so I'm guessing in the last few times I've been with you, I was talking about this idea that it's not really about changing our narrative. Because a lot of people, a lot of us have been saying that for so long: change the story, change the thoughts, change the narrative. And I don't know about you, but I tried really hard to change that. And that was my early experience with unity. It's like, oh my gosh, let me only have good thoughts. Let me focus on all those good thoughts. Let me only have those thoughts. But then these other thoughts would creep in and I would find myself resisting them. And what do we know about resistance? What we resist persists. And so at one point, and I don't know where I got this, if it was a teacher who said it, a book that I read, an aha moment, an intuition, but there was an awareness that came to me that it's not about changing the thought. It's about understanding that we have thousands upon thousands of thoughts happening pretty much every moment, actually. And some of the thoughts aren't even ours. We have thoughts that come and go that are in the collective. And if we watch the news, we're getting inundated by it, right? If it's not about changing the thoughts, what is it then? It's about making a decision about which thought I want to entertain. Where do I want to put my energy? A wise person once said, I'm not responsible for my first thought, but I am responsible for what I do with it. And to me, what that means is understanding that the thought is there and I have a choice. Do I want to say this is the truth? Do I want to debate it? Do I want to resist it? Do I want to just simply allow it to come and go? That's where mindfulness or meditation, spending time in the silence, can be so beneficial. When we think about a spiritual practice, what are we practicing? We're practicing in the experience of meditation, how we can be in the world, a greater possibility for how we can be in the world and not of the world. In other words, when I sit in meditation, I'm not trying to get rid of my thoughts or clear my mind or even change my thinking. I'm here to observe those thoughts. Notice what happens. Notice if I get hooked. Notice if in some meditations, it feels so blissful and those thoughts just come and go and I feel so deeply spiritual. And then the very next time I meditate, I just get locked onto a thought. And whatever I do, I just can't seem to get rid of it. My mind would say, oh, that first meditation was a good one and the second one was a bad one. And what I've come to understand for me is they're both really valuable because I get to see how I am with myself. And when I can look at myself without judgment and move into curiosity about it, I can start to say things to myself like, isn't it interesting that today I'm grabbing onto this thought, and yet yesterday they just came and went? And then I can dialogue with that a little more and say, which one felt lighter? Which one allowed me to feel more free? What would it be like if I could allow the thoughts to come and go? What would it be like if I can notice the thoughts and see them for what they are? One possibility among thousands or tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands. So in that way, we can observe the thoughts, and then we can take it to a place which is fundamental to ancient wisdom, new thought teaching. And that is, if I'm observing the thoughts, who is the I? Or what is the I that is observing? In other words, is there a part of me or some place within me that observes the thoughts that is separate from the thoughts? And in this way, we can actually remove karma. Now, if our mind is deeply entrenched, because a lot of Eastern thought still teaches that, we have lifetimes of karma that we have to work out. And we have to work out by doing good in order to make good on all this bad karma that we had. And again, I'm not saying that's wrong. What I'm saying is what gets created when that is the consciousness that I'm bringing to life. One of my first spiritual teachers said, pause for a moment and think of an area of your life that is difficult right now. Just see what comes up. And then ask yourself, is this a scenario that has seemed to repeat throughout my life? In other words, is this familiar? Is this that one thing that's like, gosh, I just keep having the same issue around money or health or relationships? And if it is something that keeps repeating, we can say, isn't it interesting that I keep creating this? And as easily as I created it, I can create something else. Because a lot of times we have this story that, oh my gosh, it's going to be so much work for me to change this pattern. It's going to take years of spiritual practice. It's going to take years of therapy. It's going to take years of meditation. What if in an instant we can have that quantum experience that helps us to understand, not just intellectually, but experientially, that really every single moment we have a choice. And the choice is we can look at ourselves and we can say, this is the way I've always done it. This is the way I've always seen it. And these are the results that I've always gotten. Would I like to be free? And if I would like to be free, what if it's not a process? What if instantaneously, right in this moment, I can have a different choice? And that choice isn't that I have to heal this or get rid of it. It's simply that I can focus on something else, something that is truer. And then it comes back to Unity's first principle. There's only one power and one presence active in the world and in my life, in the universe and in my life. And if that's true about who and what I am, then that place within me, whether it's an it or a me or an us, a he, she, a they, there's that power within me that is the fundamental truth with a capital T. And when I say fundamental truth with a capital T, I'm not referring to what Temple was saying of it's the answer. It's the unchanging principle. It's not an opinion. It's not a thought, and therefore it's not a belief system. And yet a lot of times if we were to survey people, what is spirituality? I can guarantee you that one word that comes up over and over again is belief. I believe spirituality is this. This is what I believe religion is. This is what I believe a spiritual path is. This is what I believe is the difference between religion and spirituality. This is what I believe, and you hear it over and over and over again. Sometimes we're swimming in the consciousness of thought, that the awareness that there's a place within us that is beyond thought can seem so foreign that we might not even be able to understand or to feel it. And yet, each of us has that fundamental experience of the truth of who and what we are. And then what can happen, which is so powerful, is once I understand that I have thoughts, but I'm not my thoughts, then the mind can be a powerful tool rather than the master of my life, rather than me being a victim to my own thinking, because that's really what karma is. Why does this keep happening to me? Basically, that's karma right there. Why does this keep happening? And I think there is something strangely comfortable for many of us in believing it's someone or something outside of ourselves, because then I can say, well, it's just karma. I have to work out my karma. Well, it's the universe. That's the new one, right? We no longer talk about it punishing God. We talk about the universe. So what I'm inviting, and I'm really called today to have more of a discussion. I know we have time for Q&A and discussion. And to me, honestly, that is so rich. And I hope that's okay, David, but I'm going to kind of not talk much longer. I want to actually get into a conversation about this. But what I want to say in closing is the truth of who and what we are is infinite. The truth of who and what the world is infinite. There are infinite possibilities in every situation. What creates the repetition is the individual consciousness and the collective consciousness that says, well, it's this way. And once we say it's this way, it is this way. And as I said earlier in the talk, sometimes the thoughts aren't even ours. I find myself having thoughts that I'm thinking, that feels more like 3 generations back. That feels more like CNN trying to tell me that, and I'm not even watching it. That feels more like Fox News is trying to get in there. And I'm using those as examples because they're easy targets, but there's a collective consciousness. Have you ever been walking along and you have this thought and it's just so random, it doesn't even feel true to you, but somehow it gets in there? The great news is we can observe that thought. We don't have to resist that thought. We don't have to believe the thought. We can say, isn't it interesting that my mind is thinking that right now? I know there's a place within me that's more powerful than thought. What would it be like for me to live beyond that thought? What would it be like for me to question that thought? What would it be like for me to rest in a greater reality and call off the search and realize that my life is infinite? So I actually want to close there because I want to save time for conversation today. I'm so honored to be here. I hope that brought up some things that we can be in conversation about. I feel very called today to do that. So I'm so grateful, as always, to be here with all of you.
TJ, I just want to, what you're bringing up is really stirring some thoughts for me. I have a question.
Great.
I was thinking about karma, and we always say you have to pay your karmic debt.
Yeah.
And I was thinking that that's one of the great differences between unity and religious science and, let's say, Buddhism or many Eastern religions, is that we don't believe there's this karmic debt that we have to pay.
Right.
We believe that all is forgiven and that everything can be new in this moment. Is that kind of accurate?
Absolutely. I mean, for me, it's really like all is forgiven, and who's the forgiver? It's me, because I'm the one with the judgment, right? And of course, society has judgment as well, but we have a collective story. And even in unity, it seeps in, even though what you're saying is true. In Ancient Wisdom, New Thought, or specifically in New Thought, we say actually there is a reality that's beyond the karmic, the good and bad and the right and wrong and the giving and receiving. There's something beyond that. I think it can still seep in for us. So I 100% agree with you.
Holy, 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 holy is the I am. Holy, yes, I am. Precious, 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 precious is the I am. Precious, yes, I am. Holy, 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 holy is the I am. Holy, yes, I am. I know that God is my center, love and glory. Sing praises to everything, for He's holy. Holy, 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 holy is the I am. Holy, yes, I am. Precious, 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 precious is the I am. Precious, yes, I am. I know that God is my center, love and glory. Sing praises to everything, for He's holy. Yeah, holy, 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 holy is the I am. Holy, yes, I am. Holy is the I am. Holy, yes, I am.
I was just reflecting on this again. We always hear that New Thought wisdom is a synthesis of the best of the teachings of the great religious faiths of the world. But in saying that, it does not mean that we believe everything that those faiths believe in. And so this is something that I had to wrestle with a few years ago as I was asking myself about karma. And I was having this conversation, and that's where I began to realize, and I read Eric Butterworth in this book. What is the book? It's The Power Within. It's something like that. But he writes that Eastern mysticism says that we're carrying this karmic debt, whether it comes from our own lifetime or the lifetime of our ancestors or collective universe. We're paying the karmic debt, but that we, in the New Thought and the Christian New Thought traditions, believe that all is forgiven. And this newing process that Myrtle talked about, we can begin fresh right now in this instant, as Michael Beckwith says. So thank you, TJ, for like opening this up. And it's so freeing to think about that, because you're right. Even in thinking about that, part of me is like, ooh, guilty. Am I questioning the fundamental rule of better be good? You know, Santa Claus is watching, and it brings back a lot of societal consciousness. So yeah. Curious if, I know that's a long monologue I just had there, but curious if anybody else sees that it's so wonderful. There's no karma to pay. And TJ, did I put that right? Was that question? Do you have anything to add on to what I said?
Oh, I think it's beautiful. And as you're speaking, I love it, because I was thinking about, like, I wonder where this all got started. And I wonder if we don't teach people about good and bad and right and wrong and karma, then they'll do bad things. I'm curious about that, right? But I have found that as I have moved along in my journey, I've come to an understanding that the harm I've caused myself and others in the world, which has been plenty, it wasn't about me being bad. It was about me not realizing the truth of who and what I am. It was me forgetting that at the core of myself, like every human being, is love. And when I know that's who I am, that's how I act in the world. So it doesn't need to be this like law of karma to like keep everyone in line. So I think that's really interesting. And I don't, of course, know if that's true, but that would just be my guess, because it's almost like we teach kids about Santa Claus so they'll be good, but is it really working? Right?
No,
so I have a lot of questions about all of it.
Yeah, and I just think it goes back to, the church and the state used to be one, and this is how we can control people into thinking that there's an eternal place that this judging God is going to send us all if we commit certain classifications of sin.
Yeah.
And we're not going to be forgiven. We're going to be thrown in this pit to burn forever and ever. And that's what I learned growing up.
Yeah.